Greetings and welcome to the All Facts Matter podcast, where we push back against corporate media propaganda with facts, evidence, and data. I'm Peter, the author of All Facts Matter. Let's begin. How much faith should we put in the political polls showing this or that candidate in the lead in any given election? As a general rule, somewhere between none and not much. Polls are not votes. And in any election, the only poll that counts is the one that takes place on election day when voters step into the voting booth and cast their ballot. However, poll data itself can offer an interesting backdrop for evaluating what candidates do and what to make of the crowds attending their rallies and other events. Given that this is a presidential election cycle, the details under the hood of any poll offer up some interesting commentaries on the state of the election, the mindset of the electorate, and the mood of the country. It's a worthwhile exercise, therefore, to do a deep dive on one of these polls, in this case, AtlasIntel's poll on the U.S. presidential election, and see what nuggets of insight might be lurking within. As I am forever asking, what does the data say? AtlasIntel warrants closer scrutiny, as Atlas was the most accurate polling organization in the 2020 presidential election cycle. AtlasIntel outdid many of the mainstays of political polling, such as Quinnipiac, CNN, Morning Consult, and Emerson College. We should not take that accomplishment to mean their 2024 poll results are the indisputable gauge of what will be in the election, but it does allow us to invest a little more trust in their data. We should also note an additional caveat. Polls which survey the nation as a whole are never going to be the most accurate snapshot of a presidential election. As the Supreme Court reaffirmed in the 2020 Chiafalo ruling, presidential elections are quintessentially a state matter. And we should be cautious about imputing the results of a nationwide survey onto individual states and their voters. That being said, let us take a closer look at the gory details of this Atlas poll. The poll itself concludes that Donald Trump is strongly in the lead nationwide. But within the polling data itself, we can see some of the reasons why Donald Trump is winning. Now, the first thing we want to observe about this poll is that despite Atlas being the most accurate polling entity the last time around, we should be wary of a potential Democratic left-leaning bias. When we look at the breakdown for the poll's methodology, we find that the sample populations are evenly split among Democrats, Republicans, and independents. Now, this notionally might appear indicative of ideological balance, but we should be mindful that, according to Gallup, another mainstay of political and public opinion polling, the largest contingent of voters is independents. And Republicans outnumber Democrats as of the latest party affiliation polling by 3 percentage points. Most importantly, this party affiliation edge has been a recurring theme throughout the year. Accordingly, this Atlas poll may have actually oversampled Democrats relative to their proportion of the population. And the results may be skewed towards Kamala Harris as a result. It's not to accuse Atlas of doing anything nefarious, but we do want to recognize that the poll results that we have here are quite likely a best case scenario for the Democrats. the actual voter distributions could easily tilt significantly towards Donald Trump. As stated, Donald Trump is, of course, in the lead in this poll. But what is noteworthy is the presence of third party candidates appears to be helping Donald Trump. In a straight head to head matchup, Donald Trump beats Kamala Harris by about 2 percentage points. But when you add in Jill Stein and Cornel West and other third parties into the mix, Donald Trump's margin of victory increases to right at 3 percentage points. This third party spoiler dynamic, which we're seeing very, very clearly demonstrated here, makes Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s decision to drop out of the race earlier this summer and endorse Donald Trump particularly significant. By exiting the race, Kennedy may very well have strengthened Donald Trump's candidacy here where it counts, because many had surmised that Kennedy would actually be pulling more support from Donald Trump than he would Kamala Harris. So by Kennedy getting out of the race, a possible splitting of Trump's voter base has effectively been eliminated. Now, when we look at the various demographic breakdowns of the support for each candidate, we begin to see why, one of the reasons why Kamala Harris is lagging. Despite being the heir apparent to Joe Biden, about 9.8% of voters who voted for Biden in 2020 are going for Donald Trump this time around. She's not being able to reconstruct Biden's voter coalition from 2020. A big 10, almost 10% of those voters are going against her this time. And another big trouble spot for her is that she appears to have alienated a significant contingent of independent voters. Remember, independent voters are the largest block of voters of the three, and more than half of them, according to this poll, are rejecting Kamala Harris. This is not a good, with more than half of independent voters basically going with Trump. This is not a good sign. More than half of the largest contingent of voters between Democrat, Republican, and Independents are going going with Donald Trump. Yeah, that's not gonna help her. Now, if Kamala Harris is trying to be an agent of change, according to this poll, she's not getting it done. When we look at when we look at how voters are planning on voting in this election, we're seeing that among Kamala Harris supporters, the majority of them approve of how Joe Biden has done as president. Donald Trump's voters, of course, think Biden's done a horrible job. Uncommitted voters, a large number of them, also think that Joe Biden's done a horrible job. But the ones that are declared for Kamala Harris, they think he's done a pretty good job. Now, when we look at the poll results overall, we see that by large margins, voters do not think that Biden's done a good job at all. So the fact that Kamala Harris is doing best among voters who think that Joe Biden did a good job means she's not appealing to the largest segment of the electorate. Matter of fact, when we look at it, we see Donald Trump is got the is actually making the broadest appeal here, uh, because he's reaching out to the ones who are definitely not happy with Joe Biden. And again, when we look at when we look at how voters are planning on voting, uh, Kamala Harris's supporters overwhelmingly have favorable assessments of Joe Biden himself. He has a positive approval rating. Donald Trump's supporters, of course, think that they highly disapprove of Joe Biden. Uncommitted voters also are not not feeling good about Joe Biden. They're not happy with him at all. So yeah, Kamala Harris's entire turn the page theme and trying to present herself as an agent of change, it hasn't been working. Certainly not according to this poll. She is Joe Biden 2.0. That's how voters, going by this poll's results, that's how voters are seeing her. She is Joe Biden 2.0. She's not somebody different. She's not being perceived as somebody different. They're seeing voters that like Joe Biden like Kamala Harris. Voters that don't like Joe Biden, they don't like Kamala Harris. Now, this really comes into play when we look at the issues that have been identified in this election. As you can see, Donald Trump is presumed to be the better person to handle all but three of the issues, whether we're talking about education, safeguarding democracy, poverty and inequality, economy, war in Ukraine, corruption, inflation, debt, immigration, China, Hamas. The only areas where Kamala Harris is viewed as having, being the better choice are when we're talking about healthcare, reproductive rights, and the environment. The problem for Kamala Harris is that those issues are not the most important issues. Overwhelmingly, immigration, inflation, and the economy, and safeguarding democracy are the big issues. And these are all issues that Donald Trump is, hands down, considered the stronger candidate on. The major issues of this campaign, voters are saying Donald Trump is the better person. This is not a case for Kamala Harris being president. This is a case for Kamala Harris not getting elected. The things that are most important, and you can see when you look at the numbers, more than half of those surveyed believe that immigration and inflation, almost half of think that economy is important, and all of these issues are issues that Donald Trump has an advantage on. So it should come as no surprise that poll numbers are showing Donald Trump in the lead. On the issues that voters care about, they trust, and that's what this poll is saying, they trust Donald Trump. Surprisingly, as much as we hear about Donald Trump being unliked and unlikable and orange man bad and everything like that, he's got better favorables than Kamala Harris, and he's got better unfavorables. About 2 percentage points, has a better positive image among voters than Kamala Harris. And by about 2 percentage points, he has a less bad negative image. Yeah. Between the two candidates, yeah, if Donald Trump is unliked and unlikable, Kamala Harris apparently is even more unliked and more unlikable. which this is not good for Kamala Harris. This is not this. These are not the kind of numbers she wants to be seeing. And for all the hand wringing about the Democrats about how horrible Donald Trump is, voters, at least in this poll survey, are saying Kamala's worse. Now, this doesn't help Kamala because when we start looking at the economy, regardless of what you read in the paper, regardless of what you see on CNN, regardless of what corporate media says, only a third of the voters, third of the electorate, thinks that the economy is doing good. Whether we're talking about the job market, household situations, or the economy as a whole, most people don't have good things to say. They're not optimistic. This is not an optimistic assessment of the U.S. economy. And what is significant about that is that when we look at how voters plan on voting, Kamala Harris supporters generally think that the job market is good, that that their household situation is good, and that the United States economy is good. Donald Trump voters, the exact opposite. They don't think the job market is good. They don't think their situation is good. They don't think that the economy is good. And even even those that are not committed, they're not as negative as Trump supporters are when it comes to the economy, but they're not as positive as Kamala Harris supporters are either. So Kamala Harris is drawing people in only among those people who feel good about how things are in the economy right now. Now, again, if you're trying to be a change candidate, people who think that the status quo is good are not people who are going to be enthusiastic about change. And so this again points out her whole turn the page forward. We're not going back. Um, these campaign themes that she's tried have really fallen flat. She's not she's not made really any progress. That she's not reaching out to any voters on a basis of change. When you look at this poll breakdown, what you're seeing is that um, she's reaching out to people on the basis of she's the status quo. Again, like I said, Kamala Harris is Joe Biden 2.0. That's how, at least on the economy, that's how voters are seeing her. That the ones who want her to be president want, they like how things are. They feel good about their economic situation. They feel good about the job market. They feel good about the economy as a whole. So if she's trying to reach out to people as an agent of change, she wants to be reaching out to these people who don't think that the job markets are good, who don't think that their situation is good, who don't think that the economy as a whole is good. And these voters have all been scooped up by Donald Trump. In terms of just outright voting blocks, this also this very much works to Donald Trump's advantage because the people who think that these things are in bad shape, who don't have good feelings about the economy, as we saw in the previous slide, are clearly the larger voting bloc. And Donald Trump has far and away the majority of that larger voting bloc. Kamala Harris is dominating among the smaller voting bloc. It's a game of numbers. Elections are always going to be a game of numbers. These are not numbers that work in Kamala Harris's favor. And one reason why this whole status quo might be attractive for Kamala Harris supporters, they tend to be higher income. Kamala Harris is doing best among voters who make over $100,000 a year. Voters who make between $50 and $100,000 by about 8 points are going to Donald Trump, and below 50,000 about by about 4.5 points they're going for Donald Trump. Keep in mind, the median income in this country last year was $80,610. So half of the country is in the income bracket that Donald Trump is winning, in terms of at least according to this poll, and a good chunk of the half above the median, from 80,000 up to 100,000, Donald Trump is winning that slice as well. It's only when you get above a salary of about $100,000 that Kamala Harris is starting to take charge. Now, this economic optimism has a curious corollary. Not only do Kamala Harris's voters tend to be supportive of the economic status quo, they are more trusting. They are showing themselves to be more trusting of the executive branch and executive branch institutions like the FBI, the Secret Service, and the CIA than they are of the Supreme Court or the Congress. Kamala Harris supporters generally have trust in the FBI. They generally have trust in the Secret Service. Amazingly, they have trust in the CIA. How you trust the CIA, I'll never understand. But they do have trust in the CIA. They do not have trust in the Supreme Court. And they have significantly less trust in the Congress. And again, this, of course, is probably not surprising, but Donald Trump's voters, exact opposite. They don't trust the FBI. They don't trust the Secret Service. They don't trust the CIA. They're more trusting of the Supreme Court. And okay, where Kamala Harris and Donald Trump voters agree, neither one of them likes Congress. Gee, how hard is that to figure? But the it is ironic that Kamala Harris keeps talking about Donald Trump being a threat to democracy, and then when you look at the trust breakdown of her voters versus Donald Trump's voters, Kamala Harris supporters are clearly the more authoritarian. They trust the executive branch more than they do the legislative and the judicial branches. They're more in favor of executive action than they are of representative democracy. But Donald Trump is the threat to democracy. Yeah, make that make sense. And again, interestingly enough, even the voters that say that they're not that they've not made up their mind yet, the uncommitted voters, again, they don't trust the FBI, they don't trust the Secret Service, they don't trust the CIA. They've got some trust in the Supreme Court. They don't have a lot of trust in the Congress. But there is clearly a more democratic support for representative democracy, libertarian style of government leaning among Donald Trump voters and among the non-committed voters than there are among Kamala Harris's supporters. For all of Kamala Harris's media surrogates saying that Donald Trump is a fascist, yeah, that really is projection. They, based on these polling results, her people are the fascists. Kamala Harris is leading the fascistic bloc of voters in this country. They trust the executive branch. They trust essentially the police state, if you will, because that is going to be always what the executive branch is. And they don't trust democratic institutions. They don't trust the rule of law. And This is why so it's not hard to see why she's not doing well, and it's why the media narratives uh, are saying that she's not doing well. Why you have Mark Halperin going up on Twitter saying that if the if things continue as they're going, Donald Trump is going to win. Uh, Her campaign themes of forward and turn the page and we're not going back have completely failed. If the Atlas Intel poll is an accurate snapshot of the broad electorate in the country, her campaign themes have all completely fallen flat. They've not worked at all. She's not being seen as an agent of change. She is the status quo. She is Joe Biden 2.0. And this what makes this poll compelling is this aligns with narratives that we see throughout corporate media and in the alternative media that her campaign staffers are concerned, even in a state of panic. And they see these poll results alongside of their internal polling. And if their internal polling looks anything like this, yeah, they've got reason to be concerned. They've got reason to panic. This poll result also aligns with what we're seeing in the betting markets, like with Predictit and Polymarket and some of the others, that show Donald Trump a huge favorite. 50, 60, 55, 60% odds that he's going to win. And we can see why. Because he's reaching the larger group, the larger block of voters in this country. He's reaching the larger demographic breakdowns are going his way, and the smaller contingents are the ones that are being picked up by Kamala Harris. Elections are a game of numbers, and this poll says that the numbers are all going Donald Trump's way. And if these results have any correlation to, and of course this is a national poll, so exactly how does this break down in in a state like Pennsylvania or Michigan? Poll doesn't say, and I'm not going to speculate on that. But if this poll looks anything like that we see on the national level, if it looks anything like what we're seeing in what's the case in Pennsylvania or Michigan, yeah, Donald Trump's going to win those states. If this is how those states see the issues, Donald Trump is going to win because Donald Trump is the one, according to this poll, that is speaking to the issues and reaching the voters more and building a better connection with the electorate than Kamala Harris. Now, does this mean does this poll say, oh yes, Donald Trump is going to win? It's all over but the shouting. No, no. As I said at the beginning, the only poll that counts is the one that takes place on election day when people go to vote. But this this does show that what you read in the corporate media, what you read in the alternative media, that Kamala Harris's staffers are in a panic, that the Democrats are not feeling the love, that they're worried about the campaign. Um, this shows that they've got good reason to be concerned. This lends credibility to that narrative. This lends credibility to the betting markets. This lends credibility to the fact that Donald Trump is leading in all of this year's battleground states. And we can see, to the extent that this is being mirrored at the state level, we can see why. If this is the trend, if this poll has an accurate snapshot of the electorate, and this is the trend that's going to be going forward, unless there's something absolutely tectonic, absolutely transformative in the next few days, Kamala Harris is not on a trajectory to win the election. Donald Trump is, but if this is a true representation of how voters see the issues and how they see the candidates, Kamala Harris is not on a trajectory to win. And while it doesn't guarantee that Donald Trump is going to win, it definitely gives us hope that come next January, President Donald Trump will be returning to the Oval Office. I don't know about you. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. But that's what we have to see in the poll numbers. Uh, as you can, like I said, there's a lot to be seen when you peel back the layers and don't just simply look at the headline numbers. When you start delving into the details, you can understand how some of the headline numbers are coming about. Um, and I hope this has been an interesting presentation for you. If you found this presentation helpful, please share this out. Um, Please also consider making a one-time donation or signing up for a paid subscription. Your support is what makes this work possible and keeps it going. I appreciate everybody's support, even even the free subscribers, especially the free subscribers. Um, but thank you for listening, and have a good day.